Welcome to episode 164 of the weekly Shared Security Show. And joining me once again is the always opinionated and always interesting co-host, Kevin Johnson.
I am not always interesting.
Yes,
I was
you are.
expecting you to say, Kevin Johnson, the guy who failed to move mannequins like he said he would.
All right, I will admit I am thoroughly disappointed that Chewie is still there and I'm not seeing Darth Vader.
I would like to give you a really good excuse, like Chewbacca is a special place in my heart, and he deserves to always be. But really, I just got busy and didn't move the mannequin.
Yeah. Well, you have employees that can do that for you. So
I feel like tasking an employee, like,
is that out of line? I mean,
move them.
Yes, sir.
yeah, that's definitely a good use of consulting talent.
That's right. Billable hours, right?
That'd be awful.
Terrible. Anyway, well, how you doing? Things are good?
Busy, which is good.
Yeah.
I like being busy. Things are good. My family is still putting up with me.
Yeah.
And I'm now working to get vaccinated.
Awesome.
So, Florida's got weird. Florida's Florida, right? We have totally Florida manned the vaccine.
Yes, of course you have.
So I'm trying to get my doctor's office to give me a note, because I have bad lungs, and that's one of the conditions that's high risk.
Yeah.
But I don't want to actually go to my doctor's office because I don't like my doctor. So, which I probably shouldn't say that. He's a great guy. He's smart as anything. He just doesn't look at you when he's working.
One of those doctors.
Yeah. And I know that that's his issue. I know that but I just can't get past it.
He has no bedside manner.
None. None. But then again, neither do I. But I'm also not.
So we have three interesting topics today. One may cause a little bit of controversy, or not. I don't know. We just roll with it on this show. But the first being interesting article from the EFF that came out this week, with the title of "The FBI Should Stop Attacking Encryption and Tell Congress About All the Encrypted Phones It's Already Hacking Into."
Yep.
And the premise of this was apparently the new FBI director in Biden's administration. His name is Christopher Wray. He was in a testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee, mainly about the Capitol riots. And he had brought up, kind of like we hear a lot of other politicians bring up, that they're complaining that, iPhones and other technology have end-to-end encryption, and that hinders the investigation of people that were, well, let's just say, declaring and showing all these videos all over the internet of the things that they were doing, which were illegal, which they really don't need to break into people's phones to prosecute. They got video, tweets, we have everything, right? Yeah. So, they had, again, complained that they only get user level access. And so, yes, I thought the EFF did a good job kind of, let's talk about this a little more. And I thought this is an interesting topic from a privacy perspective. We've talked about this in the past, right? We've seen this a lot, but I think it's worthy of discussion.
We've seen it forever. And I want to be very clear that you said at the beginning that it was, Biden's administration pushing this forward and everything else. I want to be very clear. And I know you know this. We've talked about it previously. This is not a Biden administration issue. This has been a thing, nonpartisan. Every side are idiots about this. And that's why I say I don't think this is a controversial topic, because if you have a brain, this is stupid to do, right? And if you actually support the idea of encryption backdoors and the government having access to encrypted data, right? If you honestly agree with that, I'd like you to write me and tell me why, so I can just tell you you're a moron. Because it's stupid. Why would you want to give any government, carte blanche access to, I can't pronounce that phrase, but it sounds fancy, so I'll use it, to encryption. And we know time and time again, every single time there's a back door And they don't call it that, right? They don't want to call it a backdoor because the 20 critical controls or whatever the heck they're called today say backdoors are bad. Like, you know, it's asinine, and they keep pushing it, and it's always wrapped in this, oh, we have to protect the children, or, oh, do you know what those pedophiles are doing, or
human trafficking,
oh, the insurrectionists and jackholes that invaded the Capitol, right? The only way to get them, you want to be clear, let's use the jackholes that invaded the Capitol. You don't need their phones for evidence. Why don't you need their phones for evidence? Because those jackholes posted their stuff publicly. Encryption has nothing to do with this. So
None.
It's a convenient excuse for security theater to undermine the security of the entire internet. And I know that sounds melodramatic, but it's true. This is asinine. And I'm glad the EFS has done this. The only disagreement I have with the EFF is that the EFF did not use any profanity in describing how absolute.
Otherwise, great article.
Yeah, great article, except there wasn't enough profanity because it's deserving of profanity. I'm fighting myself from using the profanity right now because I don't want this podcast to get an explicit tag.
And I think the other piece too here is that we can't sugarcoat the fact that the FBI could get into anybody's phone if they want to anyway. There's the technology is out there.
Yep. And they have that technology. Like, it's not just out there. They have the technology.
Right. And so why do you need a backdoor when they've purchased the technology, they're using the technology? There's all kinds of ways to gain access to somebody's phone, right?
And the thing that gets me is it's always presented as, we need this data, and they make a big deal about it, and we all like, whoa, no, and then they go ahead and get the data another way, but they never come back and say, oh, we got that another way, so we don't really need the backdoor. It's always just, well, it would be easier. I don't mean to be rude, but the Constitution was written specifically not to make it easier for government and law enforcement to invade your privacy. I mean, it's in the dang Constitution.
That's right.
The fact that they have access to the data in other fashion, they've got the ability to get the data in other ways, is even more of a reason. And I think that's a key thing that often gets overlooked, because don't get me wrong, I've got kids. And if you say to me, hey, we've got this thing that's going to help protect the children, there is a visceral part of me that says, do it, done. We need that. We need to protect the kids. Then I start thinking it through and like, oh, wait a minute. And that's why I think it's so important to point out that I am not aware of, and if you do, if you know of a case, that please send it. But I am not aware of a single case where law enforcement has made the argument that they needed a backdoor in encryption in the phone, in the computer, in the whatever, to gain access to stuff, that they were not able to get the data they needed for a conviction other ways, right? I'm not, and I'm willing to admit my ignorance. I haven't looked at every case in the United States, but I've paid a lot of attention to this topic, and I've not seen any case where they absolutely needed it. So that's why I say is, if you think a backdoor for the government is a good idea, I'd love to hear why. I will be judging you and laughing at you, but I would like to.
Yeah, it's just so sad that we're still seeing this constantly, no matter what administration is in office. This is just a reoccurring theme. And so, yeah, it's just kind of sad.
Yeah.
And now a quick word from our sponsors. Given the state of the world that we are currently living in, your digital privacy, cybersecurity, and health is more important than ever. That's why I recommend the use of a Faraday sleeve for your laptop, smartphone, and key fob. And if you want the best Faraday products on the market, you need Silent Pocket. And because you listen to this podcast, you can take 10% off your order right now during checkout at silentpocket.com by using discount code SharedSecurity.
Is your team starting to show signs of fatigue from traditional security awareness compliance training, or from phishing assessments that target them for those teachable moments? As we've seen in recent news, these kinds of training are having a negative impact on corporate culture, and they're really not all that effective. So there has to be a better way. ClickArmor is the first gamified learning platform that helps build a self-defending team through engaging learning challenges and exercises. Its unique lesson templates, built with proven gamification techniques, let people learn and exercise important defensive concepts in a safe and fun environment. Whether you need to quickly deploy a training solution that gets people to stop clicking on things immediately, or you've got your own boring content that needs to be put into a more interesting user experience, ClickArmor can help. So go to clickarmor.ca/shared security to learn how to build a self-defending team.
So let's jump to our second topic, which is this Exchange, these attacks on Microsoft Exchange. We mentioned this on the show last week, and I'm just kind of surprised how this is evolving into something way worse. In fact, I've seen others in the security community kind of quote that this may be one of the largest attacks on Microsoft or Microsoft software that people can remember. I mean, this is huge.
I don't know, MSO 8067.
Well,
no,
okay.
I know. I'm making
going
a joke.
back to that. Sure. I mean, that was huge.
But I don't even think that was as bad as this one. And the reason I think that this one's worse is Exchange is designed and intended to be shared publicly.
That's right.
Windows XP was not. Like, we can make fun of MSO 8067, but and yeah, you can talk about, I have an Exchange server. Yeah, I'm not, but Exchange is an internet-based system, right? That's what it's for. This one's bad. And I did see, I don't know if you saw it, somebody posted a tweet earlier today, and a whole bunch of people I've seen are retweeting, like, I agree with this 100%. It's like, they're saying, if you haven't patched this, you're not qualified to run production infrastructure. I don't agree with that completely, but I do believe that if you don't have a plan in place to fix this or check this out or whatever, you've got a problem, because it's actively being exploited. And it's not even that hard.
Yeah, and the biggest problem is that Microsoft did the right thing, obviously releasing patches. There's some arguments that Microsoft released these patches too late because they knew about the flaw for, I think it was like 2 months.
I want to say it was like in January, and then they released the patch in March.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge them on that. I mean, let me rephrase.
No, they have their reasons. Yeah.
Right. We have no concept why it took 2 months to release the patch. I am bothered that it took 2 months to release a patch, right? I can, and that's from somebody who doesn't run Exchange. This one's bad. I do think, though, that we have to be very careful about how we talk to the business about it and how we talk to people about it, because of how massive this is, because of how oh my gosh, this is bad stuff. Because let's be blunt, right? Exchange holds the keys to many kingdoms.
Sure.
Right. We have to not exaggerate it, because it's real easy, especially coming on the heels of the SolarWinds stuff and Microsoft's involvement in the SolarWinds stuff, right? That it's easy to now exaggerate the risk and exaggerate how bad things are right now. And we got to be careful, because as security people, that's just going to turn around and bite us, right? Yeah. It's really, really simple to say, oh my God, worst thing ever. And while I think this probably qualifies for that title right now, we also know it's not going to be the worst thing ever next month, because something else will come out and everything else. So.
Yeah, it's funny. I had it's the side story, not the tangent here, but not a Kevin tangent, but
I don't know.
Have an old coworker that's a sales guy that I worked with my previous job, and he had taken some time off from cybersecurity and did a side interest as a business. And that was 3 years ago. And he had posted on LinkedIn that, hey, he's back. He's got a security job now, and was wondering kind of what the status of things are. And I posted like, hey man, like nothing has changed in 3 years. If anything, it's only gotten worse. So welcome back.
We're still fighting the same things, right?
Yep.
Patch your crap, configure it well, monitor it.
Nothing's changed.
This is why I always laugh when people are like, did you see the really cool way to exploit that thing that you got to do 12 flips? And yeah, I don't have to do that. I'm going to call somebody up and say, what's your password? And they're going to tell me.
We're still fighting stuff from 20 years ago.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine.
Oh, well, speaking of breaches, the last topic here just to touch on was that airline, well, not airline data breach. It was a supplier of airlines, an organization called CITA, which is really tied into more of kind of the global airlines like Star Alliance and those things. No information, it was more like names and frequent flyer information, nothing sensitive, but I thought this was another example of, third-party security again, where especially airlines, there's so many third parties and vendors that are involved with airline passenger data.
Yeah.
These things are just going to happen.
Wasn't passport numbers involved?
I think there's some speculation on that. I had just seen name, tier status, and membership number, but
yeah, so membership number could be sensitive to you because it could be used to take over your account and steal miles and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I agree. That's not the stuff we normally worry about, right? This one's bad from a perspective of it just goes again to show, right? Understand and not just understand who your vendors are, because let's be very clear. In my opinion, if you're running an airline, knowing who every one of your vendors is all the way down, right? It's turtles all the way down is almost impossible. But understand what your plan is to handle something like this, right? Because like you said, right? It wasn't the airline that was breached, but the airlines are who are in the news. The airlines are who are dealing with the fallout because said passenger isn't calling CITA. They're calling, whichever airline they're dealing with, right? For me, when it first happened, I actually started looking and reached out to Delta just to make sure, because like I said, at the beginning of this, everybody was talking about the Star Alliance and the different groups, and Delta's a member of at least one of those. And I'm a Delta flyer. I live in Jacksonville, so everything goes through Atlanta. And so I reached out to them, and at that time, they didn't know if they were affected or not, right? And so I actually felt bad for the operator, like dealing with the questions. And it was obvious that they had done some communication. And to be fair, I don't expect a ton of communication from them since they had not yet had signs they were part of the breach. But as far as I know, they weren't. But does your company know how it's going to react if a vendor gets hit? When they get that phone call that says, hey, your data for your customers were in our system and we got popped or burned to the ground. Too soon?
No.
Okay.
Lots of orders are being burned to the ground right now. Data breaches. So.
What do you do? So.
Well, good stuff. So thanks, Kevin. I think that's all we have time for today, but always appreciate your insights and your thoughts on these topics.
Hopefully I remain interesting.
Oh, you do. So Scott, actually, on our last show last week, he has a proposal for you. He would like to debate you on some of these topics. So, he has some, let me just say he has some different opinions.
Oh, nice. I'd love to hear that.
Which I think would be fun to get.
Does that mean he supports encryption backdoors?
Oh, no, he doesn't. I do know that for a fact.
Yeah, I actually know that for a fact as well. That was why I brought
he
that
would be on
up.
this podcast if he did.
Yeah,
but
I'd love to.
I should set that up as a weekly, one of the next weekly shows or something. We'll get you together and just debate a little bit. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, because I will tell you, Scott's a smart guy.
He is.
And if he disagrees with me, I'm gonna question my belief. I'm not saying I'm going to change my opinion. I'm just saying Scott's a smart guy. He knows stuff. So,
well, we're all, and we're all about healthy debate here. That's really important. So, cool. All right, Kevin. Well, thanks again for always being on the show. Much appreciated. And to everyone else, we'll talk to you next week. That's all for this week's show. Be sure to follow the Shared Security Show on Twitter and Instagram for the latest news and show updates. If you like this episode, please hit that like and subscribe button, and please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast listening app. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.